Hey everybody, Seville here, and today we're going to be doing the UA High School Vulnerable Machine from TryHackMe, and I have to say, it has been a considerable amount of time since I have recorded and uploaded a video, and the same amount of time since I've even done a CTF challenge box. So this was a great experience for me, especially for it to be an easy level box and also to be anime themed or inspired, so to say. I'm thinking of Skeptic as I completed this box. If you guys don't know who Skeptic is one of the hackers in the My Hero Academia series. So yeah, it was really fun. I'm happy to be back. I hope I can distribute a few more videos to you all as they release here on TryHackMe and kind of get back into the swing of things. And so yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. I went ahead and reset the progress already so that we didn't have to worry about any spoils at the start of the video, and I could read the task without having to make any type of editing changes when I upload this video. We only have one task. It's to find the user and root flag, so simple enough. And we'll go ahead and read out what we have here. So join us in the mission to protect the digital world of superheroes. UA, the most renowned superhero academy, is looking for a superhero to test the security of our new site. Our site is a reflection of our school values, designed by our engineers with incredible quirks. We have gone to great lengths to create a secure platform that reflects the exceptional education of the UA. So with that being said, and having the vulnerable machine spun up and running, we should be able to get right into it. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the target address here. I'm going to need to find these port numbers. So I still use the same old in-map scans I did before. So that's going to be the SC for default scripts, SV to probe or enumerate the ports that we do get from the scan itself, and then I want to output that to a greppable file format. I just typically call it nmap.txt. I will supply it to, and I'll also supply the URL or the target IP that I want, and then I would run that. However, I have already ran that for us, so we can actually go and get that right now. So if we just go to UA nmap, and then we cat out nmap.txt, we can see that we only have port 80 and port 22 here. So this should be incredibly simple for us. We can go to the HTTP site, and we see that there's just a few pages here. This happens to be the UA homepage, if you would, and we have an about, courses, admissions, and contact page. They don't really have anything of viability for us. I initially thought that the contact page was going to be our point of entry. I found that to be pretty much a hole of nothingness if I just, submitted some fluff into these fields here. So test@test.com, ASDF, ASDF. If we submit it, it just goes nowhere, refreshes the screen, and yeah, we're just kind of right back where we were originally. So nothing of use here. So the only other thing I could think of is to maybe run something like nicto-h and then supply the URL. I didn't really get too much out of that either. And so the next thing that I could think of is to go ahead and do some discovery of other directories. So I typically use GoBuster, and what I'm going to use for the word list is going to be user share, or actually mine is going to actually be in the opt, and then seclist, it's going to be discovery, and I believe it's web content, and then comment.txt. Oops, comment.txt here. And we're also going to need to supply the target IP address, and with that we should get 3 hidden directories off rip, as you can see here, and then we're going to get 2 more hits in just a moment of a assets directory, and I believe I think this one's going to be the index.html. So while we have the time, we can go ahead and head over to assets here, and we see that it is just a blank page. We can view the page source to see if there's any type of like CSS obfuscation going on, some commented out data that could help us kind of get past anything. And we can see that there's just one line here. There's nowhere to scroll up, down, left, or right, and there is nothing for us to highlight as I click around and try to drag my mouse to maybe potentially come across some credentials. So nothing here of any use, and we can simply just close this out. If we go back, we can see that there's an index.html hit, which is obviously just going to be where we began anyways. So we can expand our enumeration of directories to the assets now, appended to the end of the target URL, and we're going to get again the same 3 hidden directories, and eventually another directory here in just one moment. I'll actually skip us right along to it. All right, and as we can see, we have an images directory, and we also have index.php. So right at the start of seeing the index.php, I immediately assumed some form of code injection or remote code execution. But before we do that, we can head over to images real quick and check that out here, and we can see we get a forbidden error. So that is kind of a point of interest now once we can get into this machine. So running it back to the index.php, we can attempt to do something like this. Index.php cmd equals, and we could do something like who am I. We get some base64 output, so we can copy that, go into our terminal, and we can echo that out and pipe it to base64-d, and we see that we are www-data. So instead of trying to enumerate this machine through Linux commands and then outputting that to base64 and then decoding that in our terminal, we can simply just go about finding a reverse web shell to run and get shell access. At the time, I don't remember RevShells having the site that they have now, and so what I just did is I just did web reverse shell and found that RevShells. I think it's RevShells.com, and I want to say I remember RevShells.com. I don't know if it was the same 4 years ago. This is just my memory, just not siding with me here, but I don't remember it being this easy back in the day. Not that it's been that long, but it's been long enough. Either way, we can simply just supply our IP and our port and pick the shell that we want. I ran into a little bit of a hiccup trying to get the right shell. I used bash, it wouldn't work. I used nc-e, it wouldn't work. Found out that I needed to use busybox, netcat-e here. And if you don't know what busybox is, I did a little research myself just to kind of refresh my memory. It's simply just a plethora of embedded Linux tools, just a little bit more lightweight and efficient for certain distros and of that nature. So let's go ahead and supply the IP that we need here, or more specifically my IP, so that I can connect to the vulnerable machine once we supply it this web shell. This reverse web shell, and that's going to be 10.6.88.38, which again is my local machine VPN address. And we'll go ahead append this to the URL here, and we also need to set up netcat on our end to catch that communication. So lvnp 9001 is how we have it set up. We can hit enter. We're now listening, so we can go back here and submit that. So if we go back to the terminal, we can see the connection has been made from the vulnerable machine at 10.10.7.31, and we can simply confirm that by saying who am I. And now that we have that, we can kind of update our shell here, -c import pty.spawn, and we want to do bin bash just to make it look a little bit prettier. And there we go. So I mean, the first thing that I did was immediately go over to the home directory. We're gonna list all the contents here. We see Deku is our one and only user, so we're gonna go into Deku and then immediately cat the user.txt file, because that's what we do as hackers, and especially as those of which who capture the flag. We can see that the permission is denied because we don't have access to Deku's content folder, so we can simply go back to the www directory, list all the contents here, and we see a hidden data content directory. So if we go into that, we get a little surprise here, a passphrase.txt file. So we can simply cat that out here, and we get some more base64 code. So we can copy this into our clipboard, open up another tab, and again, just echo. Actually, let's do something like this. Let's cd into our thm directory into UA, and now we can just echo that to base 64 to decode, so base 64-D, and then we can output that to passphrase.txt. And now we can cat passphrase.txt, and we see that the passphrase was All Might Forever. So likely it could be something for Deku's SSH credentials. We could simply try like SSH Deku at 10.10.7.31. We will confirm that we are sure. We have it in our clipboard, so we'll simply supply that password, All Might Forever, and we see that it is not, in fact, the password to get into SSH for Deku. So we're right back into our shell as www-data, and we can go actually back to our initial directory search. We remember that, we weren't able to get into the images directory. So we can actually go back one, go into HTML, assets, images, and we can list the contents here and see that there are two JPEG files, a one for all JPEG file and a UE JPEG file. So we're going to pull these down to our local host, or our attacking machine. And in order to do that, we can set up an HTTP server using Python. So we can supply python 3-m HTTP server, and then supply a port that we want to put it on. I'm just going to choose 8081. You could put it on whatever you'd like, as long as it's available. And we can go ahead and hit enter. We see that it is up and running now. So we can go to our local host, or our attacking machine, and we can do something like wget http 10.10.7.31, and then we need to supply the port that we put in that last command, which is going to be 8081 for me, and then whatever it is for you. We want to get the oneforall.jpg, and we can see that it was successful with a 200 code here. And we also want the UE JPEG. So if we go and do pretty much the same thing here, just supply UE, we see another 200. We can also confirm that back on our netcat shell that we have here, and see that everything is good to go. So first things first, we can open up file folder for UA real quick. We can open up the folder and see that UE is and looks good to go. If we just open that up, we see that it's just the background for the website, which is just UA Academy. And then if we look at the one for all file, we see that there's an error interpreting the image file because it is not a JPEG file because of the hex code there. So we're going to need to make some changes to that by using hex editor. So if we use hex editor and we supply it with the file that we want to edit, we can see that we need to change some code here. So what I did was I used GCK or GSK, Gary Kessler's signature journal, I believe it's called. Nonetheless, we could do something like JPEG hex signature, and that should supply with a number of sites that you could use. I don't know why, but I just happened to use this one. I think in the search that I initially did, this was probably at the top, so that's what I clicked. And we'll let that load real quick, and then we'll do a find for JPEG, and this is the generic JPEG image file. So we need to supply it with the FFD8, and I believe when I initially did this, I may have ran into an issue when I just did just the generic. So if we do file one for all now, and we see that it's still just a data file and not a JPEG file, I believe we need to supply it with the additional generic signature hex here. So you can see there's like generic JPEG image file, and then there's that's the JPEG graphics file, and that's going to be FFD8 FFE0. And we can just kind of have some fun here for a second. If we were to just do FFD8 FF and then save that, again, we'll just save it down as the same file. I keep missing at least one letter on the word clear. We'll do one for all now, and we see that it is now an image data file. If we were to go back into that directory here, if it wants to, I think I lost a little something there. All right, and then we'll go to UA, open folder, we see that the file for one for all JPEG hasn't changed at all yet. So what we'll do is we'll go back into that hex editor, and now we'll add or append, I believe it's E0, as you can see here. So we'll go ahead and append E0 instead of the 47. So FFD8 FFE0, and if we do again file one for all, we see that is still in fact a JPEG image data file. Now I did run into some issues here and there while doing this. I'm not too sure why. There was a few times where I had to like delete the file and bring it back in order for it to properly show. And the file that it shows is
お前が最後の継承者になるかもしれん。
let's do another wget, but this time again for one for all. So if we do that, we get to 200. We can go to hex editor, and then we can supply the FFD8, and then we'll just save that down. And if we do a steg hide again and supply that passphrase, we get a creds.txt, and it looks like that actually worked this time. So if we go to the file now, we see that the actual image is again Deku with the previous users of one for all. Not all of them it looks like, but a good bit. So again, doesn't really give us much information as to what to do to push forward. Using steg hide allows us to, as you can see, pull a creds.txt file down, and that will give us a little bit more information. And as you can see, it gives us all the information we need to access the box as Deku, because we're getting a KVP pair or a key value pair credentials for Deku. So we can actually copy this. We already have the file in our UA directory, so that's perfect for safekeeping now. We'll go ahead and copy this and run SSH Deku at the target machine. It's going to ask for the password. We can simply supply that now. And now that we have that, we can go to, we are actually already in the home directory, so we can just do head-c for user.txt, or actually I forgot to supply a number. I think if I do 11, it should just show us like welcome. So user.txt, and there we go. So we can see that we can now read the user.txt flag, and that is completed as we'll say 0.5 of task 1. So now we just need to get the root flag, and the typical thing to do once you get access as a user on any vulnerable machine is to sudo-l, supply the password once more, and we can see that we have the ability as Deku to run a feedback bash script as sudo. So if we just head over to cd opt and then new component, and we cat out that feedback script, we see that it has a little bit of data here. So it says, hello, welcome to the report form. This is a way to report various problems developed by the technical department of UA. It asks us to enter some feedback, and it reads that feedback and has a small if-else statement basically stopping us from making any breaks to run additional code. So it doesn't allow us to do like backticks, ampersands, piping, semicolons, or anything of that nature. There's a few others in there, as you can see. In order for us to run some additional code, it then uses the eval function to echo our feedback to us. So there's a few things that we can do, and we also get some confirmation out of that. So if we supply proper feedback, the data goes to the var log feedback.txt file and tells us that it was successfully saved. If we happen to not put the proper feedback in there, it tells us the input is invalid and that we need to provide valid input. So we can simply test that by doing something like sudo feedback. Sudo feedback, and then we can say like hello, and then like switch to root, right? And you can see that that is invalid input. However, if we were to do something like hello, it would just simply write back hello. It is this, as you can see, because it is reading back our feedback, and that is that. And then if we were to list the contents of that var log feedback, we can see it's owned by root and just goes to dev null. So it really does us no good to look at maybe previous history that had been ran on this bash script. So what we can do and what we know now with the if else statement is that we could append data to a file. Since we have sudo rights, we don't have to worry about permissions. And the easiest thing for us to do would be something like we can do something like this. We could say deku, and we could do all equals no password, and then I think it's all again, and then we could append that to etc sudoers. And if we enter here, we get the feedback is successfully saved, and now we should be able to do something like sudo su, and now we are root. And with that, we can obviously go into root.txt. Actually, we're already in root, so we can actually just print the working directory. Oh, no, we're not. Cd into root, and now we see that we are actually here. We can list the contents here, see that root.txt is available to us, and we're good to go. I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, it is an easy box. I will say it challenged me a little bit before I could just simply go here. I did try a few things. So if we were to just exit this shell here, so if I just did exit, clear this out real quick, and if I ever did something like this, I was trying like the star or asterisk for a wildcard, and it would just read back pretty much the bash script as it should. I tried a few other things that really didn't help at all before I came about thinking of the output, because what I tried to do actually was export a path variable. So what I was going to do was do a variable, right? So just do something like output, and then have it output the root.txt to the output variable, and then just read the output variable. But for whatever reason, I could just not get that going, and that could simply just be the time it's been since I've really, dug into that side of my brain and thought process. But yeah, I figured this would be probably the easiest way for me to show you all how to compromise this machine and get the root.txt. We can simply go back to the root user. We'll sudo root actually, because if we just do su root or switch user root, it is going to ask us for some type of password. If we supply anything other than what it should be for root, it's not going to work. So we have to sudo, because we have the ability to do that for everything. So if we sudo su, we should go into root. We can go into the root directory and then cat root.txt and see the pretty image that they left for us, that we are now the #1 hero, and as well as the flag. So I appreciate your time watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Happy to be back, and I can't wait to again distribute a little bit more to the page and to you all, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.